and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
Hi, welcome back to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. Obviously, I still do have a little bit of a congestion from that flu virus that hit me, and but I do sound less like a dog now than I'm not barking quite as much, am I?
True, but you're making good money on one of those chat lines. So,
well,
yeah, that's a good thing. So a bit of a supplement to income. So
I don't know how to record it on my CRA tax return though.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. Just put miscellaneous.
Yeah, well, we've also got most of our garden planted, and we've had a ton of rain, the city has, but not like a huge amount where we are, but
things are coming through. So
yeah,
a bit more heat now again.
Exciting things are happening, but the only thing is, it messed up our golf games. We didn't get to golf this week. I mean, that's the bad thing.
Shoot me now.
I know, we've not got enough golf games in yet, so.
Oh well, first world problems.
Well, exactly, yes. So today we're going to be discussing planning and prepping, and we're not just going to be talking about just the typical meal prepping. We are going to discuss it quite in detail, but we're going to hopefully share a few other ideas with you as to how you can plan strategies for fitness and other activities in your life. And one of the things that I used to do a lot with my clients is they'd ask me for meal plans, and it's not actually something that I do now, because a lot of the times meal plans are so restrictive, and if you happen to fall off track on one particular day or meal, then people think that the whole plan is derailed, and then they just throw their hands up in the air and think, oh, well, I've messed up one day, so I'm not carrying on. So we want to kind of give you guys some strategies. We don't want to kind of have people just doing really rigid and strict protocols. You need strategies that work for your lifestyle. So
more of a template thing, really, because again, we tend to work, especially with diet, because, things happen, and having a template to work from and kind of a caloric value and kind of macro values that, again, you want to be kind of hitting, but you're not going to hit them every day. So, it's just kind of in that generalized, because life happens. Life happens to everybody, and life happens to us as well. And again, prepping is, you don't want it to be OCD about it, because it can kind of take over your life. And you often see on Sundays, people, I'm going to spend 3 hours prepping all these meals all week and stuff. And one of today's questions we're going to ask is that kind of really necessary?
And when I used to get clients or suggest to them that they use a couple of hours on a Sunday to plan ahead for the coming week, you'd think that I'd ask them to donate a kidney or a firstborn child. It was I'm not spending 2-3 hours in my kitchen on a Sunday. And like I said earlier, we want to kind of give you strategies and a template and some ideas to work from, as opposed to being so rigid and strict. And my goals with clients now are to still use some time on a Sunday maybe, but just have a look at your upcoming schedule for work, for the kids, the family, and use that as your template as to what you're actually going to do during the week.
Yeah, so don't start the week with no idea about what you're going to do for the week. Have kind of a loose framework figured out that fits, like Karen says, with what you're doing for that week, because weeks are different. And grad week probably coming up or probably gone. I have no idea when it got kids.
No, I think grad's the end of this month.
So again, that's another that throws people through a loop. There's all these finishing school now in the end of June. Again, there's tons of concerts and this and that and the other, and you've got to be in, you've got to be out. I mean, hockey season's finished, but now baseball season. I mean, kids hockey.
Oh, okay.
Baseball season starts, soccer season starts. So again, there's all these things. So, I mean, I'm sure you've seen online, I mean, there's all the memes going around that say failing to plan is like planning to fail. And I mean, it is true to a certain degree, but like we're saying, how much prep do you actually need? And that really is so individual, because some people need to prep the bejesus out of themselves because they kind of need it, and other people can kind of follow a looser kind of guideline. So again, that's kind of where we're at today.
And one of the things that we see online as well, whether it's Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook, is we have friends in the fitness industry, some are competitors and whatever, and they've got 5 Tupperware pots all stacked up with exactly the same ingredients in each pot, and they're like, okay, look, I've done all my meal planning for the week. And I'm looking at it going, well, okay, you've got the same thing 5 times in this upcoming week. A lot of people don't like the same thing, but my thoughts as well are, well, what are you going to do for the other 2 meals of the day? People seem to find that, oh, I'll use my Tupperware pots to my advantage, and I'll put some spinach and some rice and some salmon in every single one of them. And I'm like, well, what about all the other meals that you're going to be having throughout the week?
And that's okay if you live on your own, or, you know, your kids are growing up or something, but when you've got a family of 4, how many Tupperware pots are you going to have to feed a family of 4? You know, so again, it's ideal if it's just you, or you know, and you're not got to worry about anybody else. But when it comes to families, it's another kettle of fish sort of thing.
And a lot of the times you see food items in the Tupperware pots that, yeah, it's great if you are competing, you want to control portions and calories, but a lot of the foods that people put in there, they're actually going to either go soggy or limp, or it's going to dry out.
Or they don't freeze well.
Yeah, so, you know, you have to kind of look at that as well.
And something we've never done, but I'm sure by Friday you pull that last tub out and think, really? This crap again? But, and again, like Karen says, if you're prepping for a competition, then, again, you've got your macros set out absolutely on the nth degree. And again, people post these onto social media, and the people that aren't competing look at it. No, that must be something I would do. But really, I mean, if you're not dialed in that much because, you know, you're not looking to get down to single figures of body fat so you can stand on a stage, then really that probably isn't for you. And trying to attain that goal of doing those things, maybe just a goal that's so far out of reach that you're not going to get it. So people just, again, throw the towel in and just go back to dropping into KFC on the way home from work.
I say those Tupperware pots are great, and putting those meals in there ahead of time. But like we've said already, that if life does get in the way and something goes off track, then you start freaking out. And it's like, well, I've got to day 5 and everything in this Tupperware pot is all soggy and limp. So, oh, now what do I do? So, you know, sometimes it can be a negative thing doing so many meals all the same for.
And reheating stuff in a plastic container just excites me.
Yeah. Well, we could go into BPA, like toxicity, but actually the half-life of the BPA in food is actually about 6 hours. And so it's not as bad as what people thought. But the thing is, if you are consistently and repetitively exposing your body to those reheated foods and those BPA toxins, then that's when it can become a problem. But obviously that's not what we're covering today, but it's just something to consider.
So really the crux of the question is, really, are you looking for perfection or are you looking for progress? And I mean, if you are standing on stage, then really you kind of need to look more towards perfection and being 95% really, 95 to 100% actually on the mark, because again, that'll make a difference. But like we've said before, for the average Joe, 80-20 seems to fit the bill. So again, as long as you can be make good choices 80% of the time, and not, I was going to say bad choices, but is there really any bad choices? But, not so on target choices for the other 20%, most people will make good progress. And I mean, that's what we're really looking for. We're looking more for progress rather than perfection. So again, some of the things you can do that are going to help you when you prep or for the week. So initially, I mean, you're going to go grocery shopping. So have an idea beforehand. What are you going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for supper? Make a list. Have a sit down with your other half or the kids or just on your own and just kind of come up with a list of things. Okay, so we're going to have this for Monday, this for Tuesday. So when you go to the grocery store, you know actually what you're going to get, because there's nothing worse than coming home in an evening, especially after you had a crappy day, your boss has been crawling all over you or whatever, and you open the fridge door and A, it's empty, or B, there's a load of things in there that you don't know, or your brain's so puddled that you can't think what to do with.
And one of the things that I tend to get into the habit of is, like, don't overthink the meal planning for the week. So on a Sunday, we traditionally have a roast dinner.
It's an English thing.
It's an English thing, yes. And what I do is I will have like a joint of pork or beef or whatever, and I will cook enough vegetables so that on Monday, whether it's lunch or supper, we do have exactly the same meal again. But it's taken me a couple of extra minutes to peel and chop some extra vegetables on Sunday so that we've got the same supper again the following night that we can just reheat, and it's really easy. And also becoming inventive with ways of using the same ingredients. So take ground beef, for example. You could make homemade burgers with it. You can make a cottage pie with it. You could make a lasagna with it. And
cottage pie?
Cottage pie, yes. It's like a shepherd's pie, but with beef. So don't get me started.
Okay. Yeah. Shepherds don't look after cows?
No, they look after sheep.
So
shepherd's pie is made with ground lamb.
Wow, shocking.
Yes, and cottage pie is made with ground beef. So
I know you've been aching to get that out for 35 episodes.
Yes, I know, yeah. So basically, especially if you've got kids, because kids often don't like the same thing day in, day out. So ground beef, there's like a gazillion ways that you can make it look different, and even for your own sanity, and simple meals as well. And one of the things you were asking me the other day for some ideas for one of your clients, and I said, well, make some homemade burgers, and then leftover burgers could be crumbled cold over a Greek salad, or even reheated and crumbled over a Greek salad the next day at work. So there's loads of ways that you can make things look different without lots of actual effort going into it.
And that's, again, it's when Karen posts anything online or whatever, the first thing
recipe
is
recipe,
question mark. And when we talk to people about kind of food strategies and things, I need a recipe for that.
No, you don't.
Well, you're overcomplicating things. You know what I mean? I understand that food can be sometimes a little bland. Because again, we're kind of stuck now, again, especially if you've been going to McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut and all the rest of them.
Ooh, pizza.
You've been eating what they call hyperpalatable foods. So all these foods you've been eating are basically concocted by food chemists, and they've got the right amounts of sugar, fat and salt in them to actually really light up the happy centers of your brain and also of your tongue. Because again, they make you feel great. If they make you feel great, you'll go and buy some more of it. So when you kind of take a step back and then kind of do more whole foods, you don't end up majority of the time with those sensations. Yes, you'll enjoy the food, but again, it's a little blander. So there's not necessarily, recipe, because recipes complicate things, because now all of a sudden it's like you look at, Google something online I did last year because we got some leeks left over and I wanted to make a leek soup. And I've got some leeks, some potatoes, and I wanted to put some seasoning in it and a little butter and make a soup. And there's some of them with a list of...
It was like a military operation, the recipe was.
20 different herbs, spices, this and that and the other you need to add. No, I just want to add the three things together and just make a simple soup. And it took me forever to find. I ended up Googling simple soup in the end. And I mean, all these things are great, but it just, for me, it just puts me off because there's that many different ingredients and things to add in there and herbs and this and that and the other that... I don't want to be doing that. I just wanted something simple. So try and keep it simple. Don't go nuts with again, overcomplicated recipes that you probably can't reproduce. But if it's something simple, you can reproduce it because it's now in your brain.
And we use a natural local butcher to where we live. And the ground beef that we get, I mean, I make homemade burgers and you'll put a post on Instagram, whatever, and, oh, what have you put in it? And I'm like, bit of salt and pepper and just squish the meat into a burger shape. And that's as complicated as it gets. Things like a cottage pie. I mean, you fry some onions, ground beef with some seasoning and some tomatoes, and you top it with mashed potatoes. And
even I can make that.
Oh, mashed potatoes.
Even I can make that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you have made like a
Stop
cottage
doing all
pie.
unnecessary over mashed potatoes.
So again, like it's like Richard just said, keep it simple. You don't necessarily need a recipe, but when it is something like a baked item, then yes, you have got to spend some more time kind of weighing and measuring.
Baking's chemistry.
Baking, I love chemistry. It's my favourite subject at school.
Nerd.
I know, yeah.
So remember that, again, with baking, yes, you probably will need a recipe, but a lot of times, again, it's even something as simple as Karen will do a crock pot something, and people, oh, recipe for a crock pot, seriously?
Yeah.
So some vegetables, some meat, a little bit of water, salt and pepper, and Bob's your dog.
Basically, if you've got some vegetables that are getting towards the end of their shelf life, I mean, the crock pot's great because you can have a meal that will last you for 2 or 3 days. So the crock pot's like we've said before, having Gordon Ramsay in your kitchen without the swearing, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, I grew up on a farm, and my mum cooks from scratch, and people think cooking from scratch is so complicated, but you put a chicken in the oven with some potatoes on a tray and roast them and boil some vegetables. I mean, the most complicated part of the whole meal is probably making gravy.
Yeah. Again, it's, don't make it rocket science because it really doesn't need to be. One thing we tend to use a lot of in cooking is like a vegetable sprinkle. And so this we get from, just from the grocery store. And what make is it?
I can't remember. We'll put it in the show notes.
I'll put a picture in the show notes. But again, it just adds just an edge to stuff and just kind of makes it.
And it's just dried vegetables.
Yeah.
That's it.
So if we roast chicken thighs or something, we always have chicken thighs with skin on. Just sprinkle this roasted vegetable mix on top of it, and then it all crisps up.
Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah, and it's just nice crispy chicken skin, which we eat.
Yes, because it's good for you.
With these sprinkles on again, and there's already salt and pepper in there, so it's already seasoned. So again, it's just a real no-brainer just to throw that on there.
And it's not like you're using a lot of it. So even if, like they say, there's just traditional salt in there, but for how much you're actually using, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So again, with the week, there's 168 hours in a week, and a lot of times people will, I've got to find time to. You won't find any time. I mean, there's 24 hours in the day, and like I've said on other podcasts, I'm sure you're not sitting on your butt looking at a wall for 3 hours a day with that extra time.
My cat does.
Yeah, she's different. So with that, again, you're not kind of in that bored state majority of the time. There's always something filling your day. So really, you've actually got to make some time, not find it. The time's in there, but something more often than not, if you want to do a little bit of prep or do a week's worth of meal prep, just writing it down before you go to the grocery store, you're probably going to have to miss,
Big Bang Theory or whatever.
No, you don't miss that.
No, true. I know.
Some Housewives program or something else, something on HGTV that you don't need to see for an hour. You know what I mean? And so you just put that little bit of time to one side and make that time. And to be honest, just that little bit of preparation for spending an hour, like Karen said, on a Sunday, just getting your act together and kind of realizing what you're going to do is probably going to save you 30 minutes a day. So, I mean, over 5 days, that's probably 2.5 hours of time where you're not going to walk into the kitchen when you get home from work with a blank look on your face and stare into the fridge for 10 minutes.
And also, even if you are in the habit, which I typically am, of prepping supper in an evening, is making enough so that if you've got like a job where you go to an office, is just cook and prep some extra vegetables and a bit bigger portion sizes of the meal so that you can take it for leftovers the next day. And it's a no-brainer, just leftovers just for the next day. And then you've not got to think about, what am I going to take for lunch? And you're running around the kitchen trying to grab a breakfast and think about what's going to go in your lunch bag.
And that's one question I often get, because I mean, some days I'll leave home at 6 a.m. in the morning and come back at 8 o'clock at night. And clients have asked me, where do you eat out in the daytime? Where do you get your lunch? I take everything with me. I don't eat out anywhere. I eat in the car because I take stuff with me and prep. And I mean, some days, again, I don't have anything. So what do? I just go hungry. I mean, it isn't the worst thing in the world, and going hungry isn't going to kill you. There's mechanisms in your body. And I mean, I don't suffer from low blood sugar. So if you are one of those people that gets the shakes if they don't eat for 3 hours, then again, probably not the best trick for you. But being hungry for a day isn't the worst thing in the world.
And people often say about breakfast, and if you go to my Instagram or Facebook for this morning, I actually had some leftover apple crumble for my breakfast this morning. I did have some fruit as well, but and I just put it on there because I often say to people, breakfast doesn't have to look like breakfast. I didn't eat it all last night. We had some friends over and I made apple crumble, proper apple crumble, not North American apple crumble. Like, don't get me started on that one either.
Wow,
but
big soapbox today.
I know, yeah, but I know. So I just thought, I didn't eat all my apple crumble last night. And yeah, the worst thing in the apple crumble was the flour. The rest of it, it was just apple. If you go to my Instagram, this syrup called Yacon syrup.
Recipe.
Yeah, for apple crumble, yeah. And there was butter in it, and it was just, and it was kind of like whole foods. It wasn't keto, it wasn't paleo, but one thing it was really, really good. So, breakfast,
there was none of mine left over last night.
No, there wasn't, no. So,
it was a hit.
So, yeah, I mean, and again, doing that prep, people get it into their head that your breakfast has got to look a certain way, your lunch and your supper. No, it doesn't. It's whatever's nutrient dense or whatever you actually want at the end of the day. So,
and breakfast is really simple. I mean, get one or two things that you like and have it alternate days, or have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then have the other thing Thursday, Friday if you want to. I mean, weekends, we try not to kind of encroach into people's weekends with food and stuff, because weekends are just, they're out there on their own. And a lot of times, again, people may have a sleep in on a Saturday morning. They may not eat till 11, so they kind of have a brunchy thing and then have supper later on.
We tend to do that, don't we?
Well, I've not eaten yet today, and I mean, we're crawling up on lunchtime, but I mean, it was, like I say, we had such a good supper last night, and we probably overate a little bit, and my body's not said, yo, it's hunger time, let's get on with it. So when it does, I'll listen to that signal and I'll eat something. So at the minute, I'm fine, and I'll eat when my body tells me to eat.
And if you've got things made ahead of time that do freeze easy, so like a lasagna or a cottage pie or something that you can have in the freezer and just grab easily, then it is something that you really don't have to think about. Or if you make a cottage pie and you've got lots left over, or lasagna, then basically, portion it up and freeze it.
Yeah, just put it in some containers or some Ziploc bags or something. Then you can put it out into a glass container and nuke it if you want to. I mean, one time as well, or a couple of times a year, should I say, Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas, people will buy like a £10 turkey and have the family over. Well, why not buy a £15 turkey, which, I mean, there's only two of us, and more often than not, we'll buy a 15 or a 20 pounder and cook it. I mean, the oven's on once, and then we'll use all the meat, and I'll do that is I'll portion the meat up into Ziploc bags, because again, they pack nice and...
lasted us for months, isn't it?
Yeah, pack it nice and flat in the freezer and slice it up, have a mixture of dark meat and white meat, and toss it in the freezer, and like next thing in middle of February, or what shall we have? Oh, there's turkey in there. So grab that. I can either curry it or make some gravy with it, or just make something with it, and it's just so easy. But again, you've cooked at one point, so you're not wasting energy.
And then we boil the bones down afterwards.
And just make a broth and stuff. And again, you can freeze that if you want to. So I mean, it's all things. Just because we bought a turkey that's twice the size of what we normally buy, it doesn't go to waste. It just makes meals that kind of last longer in through the year. So, I mean, it's just another no-brainer just to really cut some time down at some point and have and save energy too. And again, reduce your carbon footprint. Ooh, that's a big one.
Ooh.
Carbon footprint.
And we said that we were going to discuss not just, obviously, meal and food planning.
You did.
Well, yeah, true. Well, you just toe the line and do as you're told.
I'll jump in.
So we also, when it comes to planning ahead, you've got to also think about planning ahead for your fitness activities. And it's not necessarily just what you're planning ahead for that particular week. Richard and I have a corporate contract where we run some fitness classes for the employees 3 times a week. And one of the classes that I teach is very cardiovascular. So I actually instruct and actually do the class with the participants. Cardio and the formats of the class in particular is not what I would typically incorporate in my regular routine. So I know that for 10 months of the year, my fitness activities have to be based around my professional duties and my personal duties. So my professional duties as teaching this fitness class, I have to think, well, if I do activities at the weekend and do this and heavy weights and I've completely killed my body, I can't do that because I need to be able to perform for my corporate clients. So I have to kind of like modify and plan ahead as to what I'm going to do fitness wise. But also, we said earlier, we've missed golf this week, but we golf, well, I golf 2 times a week or try to. And I know that if we golf together on a Saturday afternoon, I teach a class on a Saturday morning. If I go too heavy with my weights, my golf sucks even more than what it normally does. So I plan around that. So I'm like, okay, we're golfing. So plan your fitness around your professional and personal activities. And also, my goal when we take the summer off from this particular corporate client, July and August, I'm planning ahead now going, okay, well, because I'm not teaching my cardio class, I can now lift heavier weights at certain days of the week, but I'm planning 2 months down the road. So, have a look, not just what's coming up for the following week, but, look at your personal and professional activities, and you've got to plan around those too.
And being a personal trainer, one of the questions a lot of times people will come up to me and says, oh, how many times do you work out? And my answer is, depends how busy I am.
Yeah. If
I'm out, like I say, if I leave at 6 in the morning and get home at 8 at night, then that's kind of a no day. I mean, I'm on my feet all day and I'm in and out of places and up and down stairs at different. But again, if I ain't got time, I ain't got time. So it all depends on how my week's structured. And like I actually participate in Karen's class on a Saturday morning. And one of my neighbours, I meet with him one morning a week and we do something. And then normally on a Sunday, I'll go out on my bike if it's nice, or we'll do something in the basement. And then, so that's kind of 3 times a week. And sometimes it is just 3 times a week, Monday through Thursday. I don't do anything because I'm running round and round in circles. And one of the worst things you can do for your health is doing other people's health, because a lot of the times you don't get that time. But if I get a time on a Saturday, on a Tuesday afternoon, say, and I've got a couple of at the 3-hour gap, I'll run on the treadmill, or I'll go outside, or I'll do something. You know what I mean? So it's just a case of scheduling things in where I can schedule things in. And I mean, it's not the best. And I mean, it's nowhere near what I used to do before I got into the industry, but it is what it is. And do I beat myself up about it? No. As long as I'm kind of maintaining a healthy muscle mass and I look fairly okay in the mirror, then I'm happy with that. And my weight's fairly stable. So I just do what I do. One of the things I have found, though, I mean, even though, I do programs for people every day and changing people's programs and periodizations and schedulings and things, is if I just think, I'll go into the basement and do some shoulders and I don't have anything on a piece of paper, it's just the worst. I just kind of look and think, I just kind of get a little bit lost sometimes, even though I do it all day long and every day. So my best thing for me is, and as for my clients too, is actually have something planned out that even if it's just jogged down on a piece of paper, if I'm doing a shoulder chest workout or a back and biceps or something like that, or an upper body or a lower body or a cardio one, have the exercises written out, because I'm not stood there then thinking, what should I? You've already done the thinking. And when you kind of get into workout mode, the last thing you really want to do is think about, you want to be thinking about your form and lifting the weights and everything. So for me, if I don't program something before when I go down to the basement or go to the gym, or go even on a run, if I go on a run or a bike ride, I know where I'm going. I know it's going to be 5K if I run. I know I'm going to go down the Floodway Trail for 30, 40 Ks on my bike, or through to the park, do 2 laps and come back, because it's already in my head. And I found if it's not in my head, then just basically it just goes to the hell in a handbasket, and it doesn't kind of work out how I want it to. And I more often than not end up just kind of, But again, be prepared to modify. Something may happen about my bike and it's looking like it's going to rain. I'm not going to keep going I'm going to turn around and come home. So again, just that preparation and things. And also, again, with a workout, if I'm halfway through and I'm not feeling it, I'll either drop the weights down a little bit, or I'll just kind of cut through halfway through and live to fight another day. Don't push through just for pushing through's sake, because again, it's not a competition. I'm not competing for anything. It's just for health and wellness, really. So, I mean, I don't need to push right the way through to the nth degree if I'm just not feeling it that day. But on some other days, I might step the weights up because we are feeling it on that day. So again, just be prepared to adjust. Nothing's regimented, nothing's set in stone. So just, again, don't push yourself over the edge. And sometimes that's where injuries occur. And the last thing we need is injuries, because a lot of that stuff, again, you can carry around like luggage forever and a day.
And when it comes to planning, especially with like fitness, the planning could actually just be something as simple as accountability. Like Richard said, he works out with a buddy on a Friday morning, and I haven't worked out with my girlfriend for 2 weeks because I've been sick. But every Thursday morning, she comes around here and she works out with me. And even us as like fitness professionals, we still need that accountability, because I can guarantee that if my girlfriend wasn't coming here on a Thursday morning...
We're not robots.
Yeah, would I go downstairs into our basement gym and do something? Yeah, probably not. But that accountability is huge when it comes to planning your own routines for fitness. And even the nutrition planning, sometimes accountability. So maybe it could be something that you could become accountable to with a friend, a buddy, that on certain days of the week, you basically share ideas, or not so much like we said recipes, but kind of like have like strategies put together so that it's not just on you to keep on track with your nutrition or your fitness.
You could even talk to your husband or your wife.
Yeah.
That's not going to catch on.
No, actually having a conversation. Yeah.
So hopefully we've covered a few things in this one, and we're just, again, the prepping and the planning is important, but it's not necessarily don't go overboard with. That's what we're basically trying to stay.
Throw away the Tupperware containers now.
And then look for those strategies, unless you're a bodybuilder, then ignore that. So again, look for those strategies that are going to help you in your life, because like we say, everybody's different, and what the person on Pinterest doing, they haven't got your life, your job, your commute, your everything else. So again, look at it from how it's going to help you. Adjust. Do something 1 week. If it didn't work, then don't throw the towel in. Look at what can I do just to tweak it a little bit. And like I say, every week's different. You may set all your week out, and this is just going to be the best week ever, and one of your kids is sick, and the next thing everything's just turned on its head. So be prepared that things aren't going to, be all sunshine and roses every week. And unicorns.
And unicorns.
And unicorns. So over the next...
so fluffy! Oh, see, I had to get Despicable Me in and Agnes.
You didn't last week.
Yeah, I know.
Slacker. So over the next couple of 2 or 3 podcasts, what we're going to do is we're going to have some interviews with some clients that I've got that have done really well, and also a friend of ours who owns a supplement store in town. Again, just go over some questions about supplements that we have, and if you have any questions about supplements and how they can help, do email us at questions@healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, and we're going to get those recorded and throw them out over the summer. See you soon.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.